Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the NTI PodTalk. This is the time where I get to talk to people who are part of the NTI community. So sometimes we talk to instructors and students and staff members, graduates, but other times I get to talk to people who are outside the NTI community, but are still in the realm of food and nutrition and all things about food and nutrition. And so today I am thrilled to be talking to Jen Peters, who is the owner and founder of Just Be Kitchen, which is a restaurant here in Denver, Colorado, for those of you who are not local. And Just Be Kitchen is a restaurant that serves 100% gluten-free, grain-free, refined sugar-free food. They also focus on high quality oils and high quality foods, cater to the Whole30 diet, other paleo-based diets. So first of all, thank you, Jen, so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So tell us about Just Be Kitchen. I'd love to hear where you got the name from. Where does that name come from? What inspired you to want to open a restaurant with this very sort of niche mission? There are more restaurants with this very limited, or not very limited. What do I say? Limitation of certain types of ingredients. But they're certainly not common. So what inspired you to want to open this? And then what's behind the name Just Be Kitchen?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I guess the inspiration was really from my own food journey experience. I had been a vegetarian for 17 years, and then I went vegan. And my philosophy at the time in terms of why I went vegan was, I would love to say it was, for, the animals and things like that. But it was actually that I felt that for me at that time, it was like a healthier lifestyle, that it was going to be a healthier, plate of food. And I was an athlete. I played semi-competitive sports overseas. And so what I found though, was that when I went vegan, I was actually for myself, a lot of people eat vegan. I have no issues with that. But for me, I was not making some of what I would see as the best choices for my body. And I felt like I was going a little bit backwards in my food philosophy. So I'd be like at a dinner and I would be having, an egg-free pasta with tomato sauce, but my colleagues and friends were having, grilled salmon with vegetables. And I just felt like I was not feeling my best. And I gained weight. And so I was an athlete and my performance went down on the pitch. So I decided to work with a holistic nutritionist. And at the time, he said to me, I'd really like for you to incorporate some animal protein. How do you feel about that? And I said, yeah, I'm actually pretty open to it. So we started to incorporate essentially a paleo diet, but we didn't call it a diet. And it wasn't really, we didn't really say it wasn't set out to be paleo. But I got super excited about understanding, better fats and healthier proteins. And my body just performed really well. My performance went up on the pitch. And so over the course of those 2 years that I was really changing my own nutrition and learning more, the inspiration came because I also was sort of disappointed that a lot of quote healthier restaurants and foods were, in my mind, really screamed health food and didn't have a lot of ultra satisfying options. It really felt to me that it was about lack or sacrifice, and so what I wanted to show with Just Be Kitchen was that eating this way, eating an anti-inflammatory diet, is so fulfilling and abundant and juicy and, just comforting. And that's really what our menu focuses on is it basically takes traditional comfort foods, and then we put our gluten, grain, refined sugar, dairy, soy, corn, peanut, legume free spin on it. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So I am not a sports person. So and you keep saying your performance on the pitch improved. What sport are you playing that you're on the pitch?
I played a sport called touch rugby, which is not known in this country very well.
Okay.
I lived in England, London, England, and it's a popular sport in England and Wales and the continent, and then in Australia and New Zealand. But
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I was like, pitch, like, what is that? What is that? Like, I don't know, softball? I don't know. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, so what's your educational background? Where did you come from in getting into sports, and what's your educational background?
Well, I was a very proud C performer in as a kid and throughout college. I never really applied myself. I think I could have done a lot better if I applied myself, but I got C's, and then I decided, just before, so Just Be Kitchen was actually started in the confines of a classroom as I started my MBA. And I decided to get my MBA really because I wanted some better finance. I knew I wanted to open up a business. I did not know it was a restaurant, but I wanted to improve my financial skills and operation skills. And so I got my MBA, and that I actually applied myself, and I became an A student, so
yes,
I did
that
much better.
That works. Yeah. Yes, I had to tell my son many times, you've got to apply yourself. But until there's motivation, you got to have self-motivation. So anyways, so you got an MBA. What was your undergrad?
My undergrad was in public relations and business.
All right, good. So you did not have any formal cooking training?
I have zero.
Yeah. All right, nice.
So but I learned my way through, I say cooking, not the science of cooking, but food and flavors, because I lived overseas for most of my life, and I've traveled. I've been so blessed to travel the world. So, I've seen less museums than I have the inside of different restaurants and farmers markets all over the world. And that's really where I also get a lot of inspiration from. But I am not classically trained in cooking at all.
Yeah. So that may be an unlikely choice for someone who is not a trained chef to want to open a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a business background and marketing background, but I have to rely on a really talented set of people to take, my vision and bring it to life and make it so that it's executable on a large volume. I'm a pretty decent home cook, but cooking for home versus in a commercial kitchen and for volume is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I am curious, because you talked about traveling all over the world and spending time in farmers markets. What kinds of things did you see in farmers markets in the international countries that you visited that we might find distasteful or be squeamish about? Did you see anything? I'm sure you did.
Oh, there's things that I definitely saw that were distasteful or squeamish. In China, going to a farmer's market or a market it was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't even name some of the stuff, but there are definitely crustaceans and bugs and hanging meats and stuff like that that definitely made me squeamish. I think in my travels through the Middle East, that's actually some of my favorite food is Middle Eastern food, but there are definitely some things in the markets that I can't think of something specifically, but just, kind of the presentation of it is a little bit different. It's much more raw and ready,
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you've ever been to Thailand, but there's a fruit in Thailand. I cannot think of the name of it, but it smells like dirty feet.
Yeah. No, I can't think of it either. What is it? Yeah, I can't remember.
It is crazy. Yes. So that was a really interesting find. It actually tastes pretty okay, but the smell is extremely potent.
Well, I think that, what I find when I hear about people going to markets, farmers markets or markets in other countries, is they see a lot of insects, and that tends to
Yes.
throw people off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you find, I mean, you sort of mentioned it, that, I think people in other countries, as long as as long as you're not eating at the whatever version of McDonald's they have in those countries, and most of them have McDonald's, I think that their food tends to be higher quality. Would you agree with that? Just in terms of freshness and lack of refinement, those kinds of things. That's my impression, and at least my experience when I have been overseas.
Yeah, so I think that what I found is, when you go to a market in France, there's, tomatoes that are mangled and they have dirt on them, and full of flavor. And
That's
I think
right.
in America, what we've come, like we modify a lot of our veggies and fruits. And so, we want everything to look very perfect. We want all these tomatoes to look round and plump and da 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 da. But they have been modified to a degree. And so what I really like about the markets in other countries, and by the way, you go into supermarkets in France or in England or whatever, and you're going to get a lot of that same, modification.
Right.
But the markets, it's just, they're very fresh, very like direct from, the farm right to that market table. And that is actually how a lot of the French, or, I'm using France as an example because I'm a big Francophile, but, that's just how their markets are. A lot of people shop at those markets. It's their way of shopping. They don't have they do have 24-hour stores, but in many of the villages, that is just the way of shopping. Is you got to get to the vegetable market by this time, and you got to get to the meat market and the boulangerie and by this time. So, it's much more specialty like that. But then also there's restrictions in other countries about the chemicals that are in foods. So,
which is a good thing.
It's a great thing.
Yeah. And so when I said higher quality, I didn't mean, as you point out, the way it looks. Our tomatoes all look beautiful and identical, and all of the produce is beautiful looking, and that doesn't indicate quality. In when I'm talking about high quality, I'm talking about nutrient density and lack of refinement, and sort of that, as you say, that real food. So
when I lived in England, I would walk down to my locals market and I could buy raw milk from my local market. And you can't do that here.
Right. Well, here you have to get it, directly from a farmer if you live in a cow share state, and there are different regulations based on where you're at. So and those markets, correct me if I'm wrong, they are like a daily thing. It's not like here where you have farmers markets on Wednesdays and Saturdays, or just Saturdays. They're open every day. So you can still live your life where you're buying food on a daily basis. You're just walking home from wherever through the market, and you pick up this, and you do that every day to support your food needs. And maybe that's why they have such tiny refrigerators, because they're shopping every day. Like, I could not fit the things that I have in my refrigerator in one of those tiny little things.
Yes. I was very happy when I moved into a flat that had a full stand-up refrigerator. It was like, whoa.
Fun. All right. Well, so maybe that also is informing, that background of that kind of food experience is also informing your desire to have a restaurant that has higher quality, less refined whole foods.
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, I think overall my whole overseas experience, coupled with, the short time that I played sports and, really got dialed in on my nutrition. I think those two things collectively. I've always been interested in food. I've always, we had a garden for a short time when I was a kid. I was involved in that. I've always been interested in food. And I've always like been very much in awe of how pure product without a lot of alteration can taste. You know, I've never really been into, just like my palate generally has not really ever been into, my family's actually from Poland. And so a lot of that food is, you know, super hearty, but it stews and just kind of heavier. And that just, while that's can be delicious, it hasn't been sort of where my palate has always led me. I've always liked more simplicity because I feel like there's so much flavor in really like good product that you don't need to do a lot of alteration to it in the cooking process. But what I found was either you had to go to a farm to table restaurant to get this incredible product and this, you know, beautiful meal. And that was like, you know, a whole night out, or, you know, is at a higher price point, versus the accessibility of food that wasn't highly processed or altered, you know, readily available. And that's kind of where we want to fit in, or that's where I wanted to fit in, is being able to get something at a price point that was available to the masses. You could do it every night of the week because it's quick and it's affordable. And it didn't scream, you know, salad. I think that's what I got tired of, like just having salads or, you know, your kale quinoa side dish and your pick your protein kind of thing. I really wanted to show that, you know, eating this way can almost just not even be like a thing. It's not like I'm going to a healthy restaurant. It's like, hey, I really want a burrito. I'm going to go pick up a burrito. And I know that it's going to be nutrient dense and it's doesn't have, you know, unhealthy oils in it. And it's going to nourish me.
Yeah.
And that's really what, you know, we hope to show in our food.
So that my impression is that's where the just be comes from. So just be kitchen is just, and then be uppercase, both BE kitchen. So
yeah,
just be, right? Like don't make it into a big deal. Just be, like, live in the moment. Is that right? That's my interpretation, but maybe you'll tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. So so I'm going to answer your question, but I'll go around a way, answer it around a way. So we were really blessed to be asked to be on this TV show on the Food Network called Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. And he asks me on the show, you know, how did you come up with a name? And so I start to explain that because there's a quote on the wall from Deepak Chopra, and it says, how do you find the one? And the answer from Deepak is be the one.
Okay.
So that's actually how I found it. I was, you know, single and I was wanting to find the one, and I found this quote and I really loved it. And so that's the name of the restaurant. But the funny part is that on the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Guy Fieri sort of says this to me, and then he's like, well, are you still single? He's like, I'll put a plug out there for you. And I said, yeah, I'm accepting applications.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, cool. Well, that's good. So that's cool. And I think my interpretation also fits.
I like yours
from the outside.
Very well. I'm going to use that. Is that all right?
Yeah, perfect. All right, good. All right, cool. So, as you know, we are a nutrition training school and a chef training school. And so our graduates most likely are, many of them are going to be small business owners, whether they own their own practice as a nutrition therapist or as a personal chef, going through the chef training. So as a sort of business marketing background person, but also someone who runs and owns and runs successfully your own small business, can you talk about sort of the rewards of being a small business owner and maybe some of the things that haven't been so rewarding, and how do you overcome some of those challenges? Sure.
So I think something that's very rewarding, and it's really hard when you're, you know, I've only been in business I'm just coming up to 5 years, so it's still a very short time. But what's really amazing is when I allow myself to take the time to look at where we were and then where we are now, and to really look at how things have changed. It is very rewarding. You know, I look back at I used to slog it at the farmers markets myself, and I'm hauling stuff in and out of my car, hot, so hot, like being under this, market tent with cookies and granola that I'm like, can you please put me on the side of this market that the sun isn't shining in, like my cookies are melting. They don't have preservatives in them,
Right.
So, I just think back to those times when you're like, we're still scrappy today, but when you're just like pulling, that's the thing about a business owner. You just got to pull rabbits out of hats, ongoing. So that's very rewarding. And then obviously in my business, when I get customer, notes, we still get like letters, cards, DMs, emails with just really kind words from customers about how much we've made a difference to their lives. And that like never gets old, ever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really rewarding. And I will say for anyone who's starting out in terms of kind of I don't want to say not so rewarding, but for me, it was a real trickery. I'd gone to so many entrepreneurial events and listened to people talk, and they're like, if you're passionate about your business, like everything will be great. Like passion is the most important thing.
Yeah. You'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I think that's a very, dangerous thing to say to business owners, because, well, at least the way that I interpreted that was, it won't ever feel like work. It means that if I don't like any part of my business, then it means I'm not passionate about it. Like I am passionate about changing people's relationship with food. I am not passionate when the dishwasher goes down and there's a plumbing leak and stuff like that. And maintenance issues are just like something that we deal with all the time. And I absolutely hate. And it took me a really long time to realize there's parts of my business that I don't like and I'm not good at. Mm-hmm. And so I think for a long time, those first couple of years, I really struggled with, well, am I just not passionate about this?
Right.
And I think the answer is no. Like there's a part of you that's really passionate about your business, but there are going to be parts of it that you're not great at, that you don't actually like. And the great thing is that you can find people to do for you. But I think that part of it is, for me anyways, it was really hard because I had been told, if you're passionate about it, everything will be great.
Yeah.
And I think in your graduates, like if it's a cooking graduate, you're so interested in the food, but when you think about like the marketing of your job and the branding and the stuff that's not really core to what you do, yeah, that's hard. It's gonna feel very difficult to branch out of that. And it's natural to feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Such great words of wisdom. Thank you. Because I also think it's misleading to tell people, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life and everything's going to be, sunbeams and rainbows. And it can be misleading. So thanks for saying that. Just Be Kitchen, great food, one of the only restaurants I ever eat at.
Thank you.
I don't eat out very often. And when we do eat out, JBK is one of those that we prioritize. So obviously you have great food, nourishing food. But I know you guys also do other things for educational purposes. Can you talk about those things?
Totally. So when I started the company, I knew in my business plan that food was always going to be core to what we do, but that I wanted to build a wellness company where things that relate to the food that we create are part of that. And so we do a couple things. We have something called nutrition notes that we highlight on our website. We write articles about different nutrition trends and topics. We have, through a mutual resource that you and I know, Amber, who's amazing. She's my events manager. And so she plans, wellness events, both at a price point that is very inexpensive for us to be able to educate the community. And then we do higher ticketed events as well. But these range from, talks about how to make kombucha, to sex and nutrition, to thyroid health, to gut health. Like anything that's in that wellness space, we aim to cover to educate the community. And then through our social media channels and newsletters, we put, other nutritional content in that too.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to help make a connection between the person I'm interviewing and whatever they're doing and our students, our grads, so those educational opportunities definitely would be of interest to our students and maybe even, and our grads as learning opportunities, but also maybe even occasionally having our grads be the presenters at some of your wellness events. Maybe an opportunity that someone could talk to JBK about and talk to Amber about.
Yeah, on our website, there's an area where if there's anybody that's interested in presenting or speaking, they can submit their pitch outline, and that goes directly to Amber to review.
Great, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for that connection, that plug.
No problem.
So, all right. So you yourself, do you have any, I want to say this. So do you work with holistic health practitioners in your own wellness protocol, not because you feel like you have to, but because you recognize the benefit and the ability to enable you to thrive in your own daily life?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think through the years that sometimes evolves and changes, and sometimes the gas is, or my foot's on the pedal for one area over another, right now, I'm still working with a functional medicine doctor. So I talk to her regularly. We're going through a couple of different protocols. I'm working with an NTP through a parasite cleanse right now. I work pretty regularly with a visceral organ specialist, which is phenomenal. Not many people know what that is. But basically she is a doctor who massages your organs from the outside. So it's non-invasive at all. It's phenomenal. So that's been great for a lot of digestive things that I've had. I'm getting acupuncture right now because I took a spill on my mountain bike. And so I'm finding that to be really healing for my arm and shoulder. I've been doing dry needling recently for the last actually like 4 months for some hip issues. I feel like I'm falling apart sometimes, and I recently found, and this has been amazing. I offer my employees free chiropractic care. And so I was seeing a chiropractor for a bit, and I'm terrible at making appointments, like so awful with it. So anyways, I ended up going to Moab to see some friends, and my friend's girlfriend does this alternative chiropractic practice, which is more like neurofeedback. So I guess chiropractic actually has like over 150 different varietals. Yeah, I had no idea. So most of us are used to the traditional realignment and whatnot.
Yeah. Rack and crack is
yeah. So this is like super gentle, no cracking. It's like a spinal analysis. And that, 2 sessions, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done. So that I'm keeping an eye on in terms of maintenance. So yes, I definitely have my toolbox of support.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about things that you do in your own life in terms of foods, supplements, things that you try to intentionally incorporate into your day on a regular basis?
Well, I eat anti-inflammatory, so I eat just like Just Be Kitchen, although we're dairy free, but I do incorporate quality sources of dairy in my diet. But in terms of like supplements and stuff, I daily have adaptogens. My body responds really well to them. So I daily have adaptogens, collagen, kind of old school, but I take collagen on the daily. And very underrated salts and electrolytes. I do daily.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Nice. All right. Well, thank you for all of
Thank
this
you.
great insight and little nuggets of wisdom about being in business and
Thank you.
dealing with the ups and downs of the challenges, maybe. Finding your passion, but also recognizing that there's going to be days where you have to clean the toilet, and that is not fun for anyone.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people find out about you? I don't know if you have personal ways for people to find you, or if everything is just through Just Be Kitchen.
Yeah, so we have our website, justbekitchen.com, and then our Instagram, which is at justbekitchen, I actually run. So that account is professional in terms of it. I talk about the restaurant, but like I'm on there, I'm the face of that account. So people reach me directly through DM on that as well. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time today. I really appreciate it. And for those who live locally, I can personally attest to the quality of the food, the flavor of the food at Just Be Kitchen. So give them a try. So
thank you so much.
all right. Thanks. Bye.